Have you ever been outside at night, looked up, and seen this bright, reddish point of light? One that just doesn't twinkle like the other stars? Well, today we're going to figure out what that is. I'm going to show you exactly how you can find and see our planetary neighbor, Mars, all for yourself. So, just picture it. You're looking up at the night sky, you see all the familiar stars doing their twinkling thing, but then you spot something different. It's bright, it's got this really distinct reddish-orange glow, and its light is just rock steady. So what is that? Well, here's the spoiler. That isn't some distant twinkling star millions of light years away. Nope. What you're actually seeing is the sunlight reflecting off the surface of a whole other planet. You're looking at Mars. Okay, so let's start right there. What is it that makes this red star so different from, all the actual stars in our night sky? The reason for this is actually really simple. Light from those distant stars is just a tiny pinpoint coming from so far away. As it travels through our atmosphere, it gets bounced around, and that's what makes it look like it's twinkling. But planets, like Mars, they're much closer to us. So their light comes through as a more stable, steady beam. That steady, reddish glow, that is your number one clue. So what are we really looking at up there? Well, Mars is the fourth planet from our sun, and it's about half the size of Earth. But what's really wild is that a day on Mars is almost the same length as ours, just about 37 minutes longer. And even though it's a rocky world like ours, it only has about 38% of Earth's gravity. Imagine that. You could jump almost 3 times higher. And why do we call it the red planet? It's because the surface is covered in iron oxide. In other words, it's rust. Seriously, that reddish dust you see covering the entire world, it is literally rust. You're looking at a rusty planet. How cool is that? All right, let's get to the fun part. You know what it is, but how do you actually find Mars in that huge night sky? Okay, the single most important word you need to know for Mars watching is opposition. This is the magic moment when Earth, in its faster orbit around the sun, perfectly lines up right between the sun and Mars. From our perspective here on Earth, this means Mars is as close, as big, and as bright as it ever gets. It's the main event. So how often does this amazing viewing opportunity come around? It happens about every 26 months, or just over 2 years. So it's not a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but it is definitely special. When you hear that a Mars opposition is coming up, that is your cue to get outside and look up. And finding it, it's honestly super easy, even if you're a total beginner. First thing to do is just grab a sky map app on your phone. There are tons of great free ones out there. Then just head outside on a clear night and scan the sky. Look for that bright reddish object that isn't twinkling. I promise you, once you spot it that first time, you'll be able to find it again and again. Now, you might see other bright, steady lights up there, but the color is the real giveaway. Jupiter, for example, is usually a brilliant, steady white. Saturn is more of a pale yellowish color. Mars is the only one with that unmistakable red or orange shine. So, you found it. Now what? What can you actually expect to see? Let's break down what it looks like from just using your eyes all the way up to a telescope. With just your eyes, Mars is going to look like a bright, steady dot. You won't see mountains or anything, but what you will see is its color. And there's just something amazing about knowing that reddish point of light isn't a star, it's a whole other world. Now, if you can point even a small telescope at it, this is where things get really exciting. I'll be honest, the details are subtle. You gotta be patient, you're not gonna get a perfect NASA photo right away. But with a little bit of focus, you can start to see the actual surface of another planet with your own eyes. So what should you be looking for? On a good night, you can often spot the brilliant white of one of its polar ice caps. You might also be able to make out large, dark splotches on the surface. Those are huge plains of ancient volcanic rock. Seeing those features, that's the moment it clicks and you realize you're not just looking at a dot anymore. And when you see those little smudges through a telescope, it's mind-blowing to think about what you're actually looking at. Let's zoom in for a second on the unbelievable, giant scale of that Martian landscape. For starters, Mars is home to Olympus Mons. This isn't just a big volcano. It's the largest volcano in the entire solar system. We're talking about 25 kilometers high. That's nearly 3 times taller than Mount Everest. This thing is so massive that if you put it on Earth, it would cover the entire state of Arizona. It's just huge. And that's not all. Mars also has this massive canyon system called Valles Marineris. If you put that on Earth, it would stretch all the way from New York City to California. And those little white polar caps we can see? They're made of both regular water ice and frozen carbon dioxide. Yep, dry ice. So how on earth do we know all these incredible details? Well, it's thanks to our robotic explorers. Rovers like Perseverance and Curiosity are right there, on the surface right now. They're basically our eyes and hands, sending back all this amazing data and the pictures that let us piece together this incredible view of another world. And all of this, it brings us to a bigger idea. Why does this little red dot continue to capture our imagination so much? What does it really mean when you look at it? Well, for anyone just getting into astronomy, Mars is the perfect place to start. It's just in that sweet spot. You can see it without any fancy equipment, its color makes it super easy to find, and even a small telescope starts to show you that it's a real, living, changing world. It's so accessible, but there's always more to see. And that experience, it can lead to this really powerful shift in how you see things. This quote just nails it. The first time you actually resolve a detail on its surface, something just clicks in your brain. You realize, I'm not just looking at a dot, I'm looking at a planet. You are seeing another world live right now. And really, every time we look at Mars, we're connecting to one of the biggest questions we can possibly ask. We're studying a world that we know once had liquid water, a world that might have had life. Looking at that little red dot isn't just stargazing. It's a tiny reminder that we're part of this huge cosmos, and that we're still searching for the answer to that ultimate question. Are we alone?